Let's generate our motivation. Come back to our wish to be of benefit to other living beings. And expand the scope of that wish so that it includes all living beings, not just the people that we're near and dear to, but also people we don't know and even people we don't like. So may we remove the walls in our own mind that separates us from other living beings and from caring about them. Then may we have the wish to be of benefit, and knowing that to be of benefit we have to work on ourselves and gain more qualities and free ourselves from our own internal faults and hindrances. Then we aspire for full awakening, the state of having done all of that, so we can be of most effective benefit to all living beings, ourselves and others. So let's make that far-reaching motivation our reason for being here today. So it's very easy to speak of benefiting all living beings when all living beings remain some kind of abstraction. Yeah, like all those living beings. Yeah, I love all those living beings. Yeah, except the guy who cut me off on the highway. Yeah, and the person at the grocery store who gave me plastic instead of paper, or gave me paper when I had my own bag. And doesn't he realize that I'm trying to save the environment, and why isn't he using my cloth bag? Yeah. Or, you know what I mean? Yeah. Abstractions, it's so easy to have love and compassion for them. Yeah. But individuals who do what they do, individuals who do what they do, it's much harder. Yeah, because they're such idiots sometimes. Yeah, I mean, they just don't get it, that my way is the right way, and that they should do the things the way I want them to be done. And they should think the way I think. Their opinions are wrong. Yeah, so our love and compassion goes as far as the boundary of our opinions, you know, and our desires and our wishes. But anybody who is not within that boundary of what I like, you know, is just not worthy of my love and compassion, because, and we keep a very nice, clear, delineated list of everything they do that we disapprove of. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Our day-to-day work, we're kind of disorganized. We forget things. We're supposed to do this. We forget that. We're supposed to do this. We forget that. We're delayed. Blah blah blah. But when somebody does something we don't like, we remember it, and that is in our mental list forever. Yeah. we store it away, yeah, so that when there's an argument or when we need to make a case for something, we can pull it out as evidence. Yeah. 20 years ago, you said. It's good we don't remember previous lives, otherwise we'd be pulling all that stuff out too. 50 million eons ago, when you were my boss, you fired me. Yeah. So, this very judgmental, critical mind is really it's a party stopper, isn't it? We want to have a party, a celebration in honor of all sentient beings so that they can may be well and happy, and what gets in the way of it is our judgment. Yeah? Our critical mind. That we don't want to think critically about the teachings, but we will think critically about other people's personality traits. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. So instead of, I was thinking that, if we say to ourselves, okay, my job as a Dharma practitioner is simply to have empathy and understanding for these sentient beings, and therefore to wish them to have happiness in its causes, which is love, to wish them to be free of suffering in its causes, which is compassion. And that's my job in relationship, just to, have empathy and understanding, generate love and compassion. That's it. Yeah. But my mind steps in after that and says, oh, that's very good, but they need to be worthy of it. Okay. And what makes somebody worthy of my love and compassion? Yeah. Not the fact that they exist and they're exactly like me in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Yeah. That's not what makes them worthy of my love and compassion. And their having been kind to me repeatedly in previous lives, I don't care about. Yeah. What makes them worthy of my love and compassion is if they do what I want them to do. And don't do what I don't want them to do. Okay? So what do I want them to do? Well, first of all, they have to like me. Yeah? And they have to respect me. Because nobody is allowed not to like me and not to respect me. That is forbidden in the first universal law. Yeah, forbidden. Yeah. They cannot criticize me. They must always praise me. Right? Yeah. They must give me what I want when I want it. Yeah. They must think highly of me and talk to other people highly about me. Yeah. They're not allowed to mention my faults to anybody else. Actually, they're not allowed to notice my faults. Because anyway, I don't have any. Yeah. So, yeah. So we say, yes, love and compassion for everybody. And then the fine print has all these conditions. Yeah. So what we really need to do, in our Dharma practice is delete the fine print from the contract. Just delete it. Yeah. And then think of what would it be like to have empathy and understanding for everybody without the judgment. Yeah. When you consider it, does something feel wrong to you about doing this? For example, we're not quite sure who shot down that Malaysian Airlines plane where 298 people got killed. We don't really know who did it, but whoever did it, yeah, can we have love and can we, yeah, have love, have some empathy for those people? Yeah, is that possible? Can you find a place in your heart where you can have some understanding of, okay, we don't really know who, but let's, for the sake of this Dharma teaching, okay, say that it was the separatists, you know, Russian-backed separatists who want to break away from Ukraine. We don't know it was them, but we'll just use that as, okay? So can you look at them, you know, these people who will not let the international community have access to the crash site, who maybe took, we don't know if they stole the Ukrainian missile or if they had a Russian one and shot it at this plane because they thought it was probably a Ukrainian military plane, and they're so dumb they can't realize the difference between a commercial airliner and a military plane, and they just thought, let's shoot it down because it's good for our cause. Do you think possible to have empathy for people like that?
Yes, but I don't have any relatives on that plane.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the key.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't have relatives on the plane. What happened if you do have relatives on the plane? Yeah, or friends on the plane.
There was a video clip this morning. There was one Canadian on the plane. And he interviewed this young, it was a 24-year-old Canadian guy, and he interviewed his sister. And she said, what use is it for me to be angry? It's not going to bring that brother back.
Yeah.
And she's absolutely ripped apart, of course.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah. So when they interviewed the sister of one young Canadian, she said, what use is it to be angry? Won't bring my brother back. Yeah. So she's suffering, but she's not holding it against anybody. She's realizing the faults of anger. But what about us? Yeah? Can we stretch our heart to include, you know, militants? Can we? Yeah? Knowing that this probably isn't going to be the end of the people they kill. You know, there's going to continue to be war in eastern Ukraine. Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's easier to love than it is to like. Like shows approval of it.
Yeah. Okay, so if we say liking somebody is showing approval of their behavior, then sometimes it's easier to love them than to like them. Yeah. But sometimes it's hard to love people you don't like, too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so it's really something kind of to look inside and be really honest with ourselves. And like, where does my open-heartedness stop? Yeah? At what point do I just say, no, I can't do that? Or how is it that sometimes we might feel, yes, okay, I can understand the mind of, you know, somebody who is ethnically Russian, living in a country that is not their own, wanting to be with their own ethnic group, feeling, you know, disadvantaged or whatever they feel. You know, maybe I can understand that. Yeah, But, so we can get the understanding a little bit of the way, but that doesn't give you the right to kill innocent people and to shoot down a commercial jet. Yeah, that doesn't give you the right to be stupid and not discriminate between planes. And it doesn't even give you the right to shoot down a fighter plane either, because there's people on that. And it doesn't even give you the right to have a war, because you're killing people. And, you see how it builds up? Okay? So, it's interesting to contemplate, to take real life examples like this and be able to look in our heart and see, where am I right now? Yeah. Would it make a difference to me if I had a friend or a relative on the plane? Yeah. Or is the fact that, one of the world's leading AIDS experts was on the plane, and the fact of his death, how that impacts the rest of the world. Yeah, so even though I don't know the person, how does his death impact me, impact the other people I know, impact national policy for that matter? Okay, so I think our Dharma practice, we should bring it to our life in this way and ask ourselves these kinds of questions, and really be honest with how, where our own mind is at. And then when we're honest about that, then we can try and stretch it and expand it. But if we're not honest about where it's at, and all of us will be at different places, but if we're not honest about that, then our Dharma practice remains quite intellectual. Yeah. Yes, all this love and compassion for all these people out there. Yeah?
If it was the case that I could feel love and compassion for those people and still think what they did is wrong?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you can have love and compassion and still say what they did is wrong. Yeah, of course. But what's difficult is as soon as we say what somebody did is wrong, our mind usually goes into judgment. Yeah. So how can we get our mind to that place where we can say, yes, what they did was wrong, but not have that factor of judgment? And yet still speak out and say that behavior is not acceptable. Yeah. In other words, we're not saying, oh you shot down a plane, 298 people died. No problem, we forgive you. We realize it was just an accident. Yeah? Is that an appropriate response? That's not going to work. So, how to see that something is inappropriate, unacceptable, damaging, and harmful, and be able to say that, and see that people may have to experience some result of those actions, and at the same time, wish those people to have happiness in its causes and be free of suffering in its causes. Yeah. So this is a place to really stretch, isn't it? Hmm?
So, kind of when we were talking about this, I feel like a really sense of pity and almost, being like, I feel so bad that they don't understand, not even inside, the Buddhist thought, even outside. Is that, I'm not sure if that's just a compassion, or I'm not really sure if.
Yeah. Well, that's something that you have to see yourself, whether it's compassion or not. Yeah, and it also depends what you mean by the word pity. because pity sometimes, to some people, pity implies a power differential. Yeah? Kind of, I pity you, you poor slob. Yeah. Yeah. Or, feeling sadness. Yeah. Are we feeling sadness because, they grew up in the life circumstances they did and didn't have the opportunity to, live in a different kind of environment or to learn different kind of values, or to come across different kind of people, have different people as friends, because I'm sure, a lot of them that have become militants is because their friends have, It's like, it's a real guy thing, isn't it? How guys bond. Let's go out and, instead of playing football, we'll play war. And, we'll bond and we'll be on the same team. And, yeah, did you play war when you were a kid? Yeah. So, yeah, what are we doing as children playing war? Yeah.
I remember making it a point that my son couldn't have any toy weapons, which was completely pointless because any stick or anything that looked like that was a gun
Yeah.
or a sword. You can give it weapons, they'll just make them up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we create an image. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So to take a look at this and, see where we're at, see where we want to go, see, how we can train our mind, learn the method to do that, and then practice it, and practice it on a regular basis. And even then, is it possible to have love and compassion for some unknown militant? Yeah. But if somebody walked up here with a gun, what would be our reaction? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, first thing I want to do is take the gun away from them, but after that, then love and compassion.
Yeah. First disarm him, then have love and compassion for him. Yeah. 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 Or do we invite him in for some cake? Yeah. Yeah. I remember hearing of one Buddhist master in California, and they had quite a large monastery. It was a city of 10,000 Buddhists, for those of you who know it. And there was a group of Christians who came to protest outside their gate about, and they were making a lot of noise, and, we don't want Buddhists here, and da-da-da, and they're heretics, and this kind of stuff. Because I think it was I can't remember exactly. It might have been because they wanted to enlarge their monastic campus, and and so these people in the community didn't want it. I can't remember if that was the issue or not, but anyway, they were outside the gate making a ruckus. And the master told his disciples, please go out and invite them to come in. It's hot outside, they probably need something to drink, so invite them to come in, serve them something to drink. And they did that. Yeah. They did that. Well, I don't know. But if you were served something to drink, would you go out and yell and scream against the people some more? Or, yeah, I don't know what happened.
Isn't the
what they were doing is based on ignorance. What the militants in our example are doing is based on ignorance. Yeah. What the person, all the people who we don't like on a personal basis, it's ignorance, isn't it? Because if people, and here, it's both types of ignorance. The ignorance not knowing ultimate reality, which gives rise to attachment and so on, but also the ignorance of karma, not knowing what's virtuous and what's non-virtuous, that enables people to think that what they're doing is a constructive action, when actually they're creating the cause for their own misery doing it. Okay, so both kinds of ignorance. Yeah. Ignorance is sometimes, if somebody's angry, well, maybe, we can have some compassion because they're out of control with anger. Yeah. But ignorance, sometimes it's harder. They should know better, shouldn't they? They shouldn't be so stupid.
Yes, but a lot of it based on not just ignorance, but a lot of it is based on fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fear, ignorance, all sorts of things wrapped up in there. Yeah. But not being able to discriminate what's virtue, what's non-virtue. You're afraid, so you think a certain path of action is going to solve your problem. Yeah, it doesn't, but we do it anyway, and it makes the problem worse. And then we get madder at the other people, even though we're the one who made the problem worse. Mm-hmm. Okay, shall we go back to the Four Noble Truths? Yeah, are you getting some idea about the first noble truth? Yeah, about the truth of unsatisfactory conditions? Yeah, this is it, isn't it? When we talk about the, unsatisfactory conditions and its causes, what we've just been discussing right now is it. Yeah, that we're in these kinds of situations where there is, so much, peril and so much adversity and all these things, and what causes them, the ignorance, clinging, attachment, anger, and how we're living right smack in the middle of it, even though we want to have happiness and don't want to suffer. But again, too, because of our ignorance, we jump into the flurry and make it worse with our opinions and our judgment and our anger and our greed and our fear and our everything else. Yeah, and to see it's a whole it's a whole mess, isn't it? Yeah, the whole. If you want to talk about dysfunction, yeah, samsara is the ultimate of dysfunction. Nothing in samsara works properly. Yeah, nothing. And it's never going to work properly. Yeah. Why? Because the very nature of samsara is dysfunction. Yeah, there's no way around it, because the origin, the causes of samsara are rooted in ignorance, with ignorance as a root cause. There's no way to tweak the situation and make it better. Yeah. So, really coming face to face with that, and taking the gamble that all this talk about nirvana, which, what in the world is nirvana? That it may have something to it. Because we don't understand very well what the cessation of dukkha is. What's nirvana? Yeah? Isn't that a band? Yeah. Or is nirvana like heaven? Yeah, you go to heaven and you're with your relatives for eternity. Isn't that hell? Yeah. You know, you know, we're not so clear what nirvana is. Do we want to trust it? Do we want to trust that there's a path out of our situation? Yeah, when we don't understand completely what that path is. Of course, the more we study, the more we reflect, the more we meditate, the more we understand what nirvana is and what the path is. Yeah. But at the beginning, when we don't understand, it's harder to trust. Now later, when we have some understanding, then yeah, much easier. Okay, let's go back to where we were. We were discussing those 3 questions, remember? That His Holiness was asked at the interfaith conference of, is there a self? Yeah. Is there a beginning to the self, and is there an end to the self? So we talked about, you know, is there a self, and the different views that different religions have. You know, some saying that there's a permanent, unitary, independent self, and, you know, how they back that up by how they interpret our daily experience. And then within Buddhism, you know, the different assertions as to what's the self. And then the Prasangika, Madhyamaka view of the self being what is merely labeled independence upon the body and mind. Or another way of saying that, what is merely labeled independence upon the aggregates. The aggregates mean the body and mind. And then we talked about, is there a beginning to the self, and how, you know, just by the law of causality, everything that functions, that changes, that produces a result, itself had to be produced by a cause. So, you know, we have to be able to keep tracing causes back, and we never reach an ultimate beginning before which there was no cause. Yeah, and then after which there was the first cause, because that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because if you say that there was a first cause, then what caused that? Yeah, and then so you have this whole thing of infinite causes. Yeah, if you know, when you think of your math class, some people feel uneasy with the idea of infinity. But if you think of your math class, yeah, or you just ponder it a little bit, actually, to me anyway, the idea of infinity makes a lot of sense. You know, like you look up, I don't understand this thing about the universe is getting bigger, because in my mind, the universe is infinite to start with. Maybe they mean the universe, the expanse of material that they're able to discern with their scientific weapon measurement weapon, scientific instruments. Yeah, maybe that you know, is expanding. But I remember as a kid looking up in the sky, and you know, when does space end? Can you find an end of space? And I was wondering, you know, do you get out to a certain distance and then there's a brick wall? But if there's a brick wall, then there's space on the other side of the brick wall. So, you know, it's useless having a brick wall. Yeah. Okay, and so similarly, you know, if you want to get an idea of infinite sentient beings, if that kind of is a hard concept for you, you know, look up into space and think, you know, here are all those stars, and, you know, many of them have planets, and there can be many different forms of life. Life doesn't have to be like our form where you need water and oxygen and a certain kind of atmosphere. There could be living beings with different kinds of karma so that their bodies are constructed differently and they need other kinds of things to stay alive. And those could be present on these other kind of planets. Yeah, and so you look out into space and wow, there could be a lot of sentient beings out there that I don't even know about. And then thinking that all those little dots that are stars, that they're enormous things, actually if you were up close, that they're enormous. And to our little perspective, if you were in front of them, aside from the fact that it would burn us to death, let's say it didn't, it would be impossible to see the beginning or end of one of those stars. They're so huge. And yet they appear to us as these little dots. So we shouldn't really think of them as little dots. We should think of them as big things with, their own solar systems and possible light forms and life forms and so on. Okay? And then infinite sentient, or maybe uncountable sentient beings on them who have all been our parents at one time or another, or who've all been kind to us at one time or another. Yeah, because there's infinite time before us, so plenty of time for us to have all been each other's parents and children and been kind to each other and so on. Okay, so the third question, is there an end to the self? Okay, so within Buddhism, there's two positions on this. Some of the Vaibhasikas, this is the one of the tenet schools, it's considered the lowest tenet school according to how the Tibetans make up this schema of tenet schools. But also within the Theravada, there's some people who assert this also, is because they say that the body and mind, when somebody becomes an arhat, let's say you become an arhat in this life. When you were born, you hadn't yet become an arhat. So your body and mind were taken under the influence of ignorance and afflictions and karma, and therefore it's something polluted. And there's because these schools assert inherent existence, that things have inherent natures, so then they are inherently polluted. Yeah, polluted meaning under the influence of ignorance, afflictions, and karma. And so even the arhat, somebody becomes an arhat, their aggregates, remain polluted, and so when the arhat dies and sheds these polluted aggregates, then there's no more basis of designation of a person because there's no more body and mind present. Okay, you getting what I'm saying here? Okay, so they would say after an arhat passes away in the life that they attained arhatship, then there's no more body and mind, so there's no more person. Yeah, the person, the consciousness, it reaches an end because in their view, the existence of consciousness is fueled by attachment, by craving. When craving is ended, then there's nothing to fuel the existence of consciousness that takes rebirth in cyclic existence. And so with the ending of consciousness, then, there's no person. Yeah. From the viewpoint of the other philosophical schools that are considered higher, then there's some problems if you say that. Because if you say that at the time of nirvana, yeah, there is no person, then you can't say that person attained nirvana, because there's no person who attained nirvana. Because at the time of nirvana, there's no person. Okay? So it becomes a little bit problematic. Okay? So there couldn't be a person who attained nirvana, so then how can you have the nirvana that was attained by a person? Okay? Then another reason that the other schools, especially the schools that believe in Buddha nature, would say that, that you can't, so the Vaibhasikas would say, yes, there's an end to the self. The reason why the other schools would, that especially the ones that believe in Buddha nature, wouldn't agree with that, is they'd say that there's no cessation of the continuity of clarity and awareness, which is the fundamental nature of the mind. Okay? So when you just talk about the nature of the conventional mind here, the definition of the mind is clarity and awareness, the ability to contact objects, the ability to engage in objects, and there's nothing that can sever that continuity. Okay? Because one moment of clarity and awareness produces another moment, and there's nothing in the universe that can cause that, a cessation of that in which, it no longer happened. So therefore they say, yes, there is a continuity of the mind, just of the clarity and awareness, and when the mind stream is purified, that clarity and awareness becomes what's called the wisdom dharmakaya of the Buddha, the wisdom truth body of the Buddha. Okay, in other words, the Buddha's omniscient mind. So they would say, there's a continuity of the mind, and it's a purified mind. Okay, so they wouldn't say, the aggregates are inherently polluted. They would say the aggregates are temporarily polluted because the ignorance and afflictions and so on are they're adventitious. Adventitious meaning temporary. There's something that are not the nature of the mind. And this is actually quite important, to consider that the very nature, whether we talk of the ultimate nature of the mind or the conventional nature of the mind, neither of them is inherently polluted. Okay? The ultimate nature of the mind is its emptiness of inherent existence. So, of course, if emptiness is the ultimate nature of the mind, that ultimate nature is not polluted by ignorance. Because ignorance is holding the opposite of that very emptiness that is the nature of the mind. Then the conventional nature of the mind, that clarity and awareness, the ignorance is not in the nature of the of the mind, the conventional mind. It's something added on top. It's adventitious. It can be removed. Why can it be removed? This is what we talked about yesterday, because ignorance apprehends things in an incorrect way. So when you generate the wisdom that sees things correctly and habituate the mind with that, then you slowly diminish the power of ignorance until ignorance is completely obliterated. So in that case, what you're left with is just the clarity and awareness of the mind. So it's kind of, they often use an example of a dirty cloth. So the dirt is not the nature of the cloth. And if you wash the dirt, you may have to wash it many times. Yeah, because there's a lot of different kinds of dirt and a lot of different kinds of stain. Yeah, but if you wash it many, many times, it's, possible to eliminate all the dirt that's on the piece of cloth, and yet you still have the cloth there. So in the same way, we can eliminate the different layers of defilement or obscurations on the mind, and when they're totally eliminated, still have the pure clarity and awareness of the mind that remains. Okay? So that's another reason why for the Prasangika and, the schools that believe in Buddha nature, that you would say there's no end to the self, because as long as the continuity of mind is there, then you can label person in dependence upon that mind. Okay? So the Arya Buddha is a person. Not a person like us, but a person in the sense of, having a continuity, having a consciousness. From the viewpoint of Tantra, okay, after parinirvana, okay, here we're talking about the, okay, maybe let me back up a little bit. Okay, so there's a bit of a difference between the enlightenment of an arhat and the enlightenment of a Buddha. For an arhat, they've eliminated the afflictive obscurations and are no longer reborn in cyclic existence, but they still have a subtle layer of defilement called the cognitive obscurations. The Buddhas have eliminated also the cognitive obscurations, so a Buddha's mind is completely purified of all obscurations. Okay. From the viewpoint of Tantra, after the parinirvana of a Buddha, what remains is the subtlest wind energy and the subtlest consciousness. Yeah, from the tantric viewpoint, this is the ultimate basis of designation of the person. Yeah, the subtlest wind energy, the subtlest consciousness, and those two are inseparable. Okay, and they continue from life to life, but they're not a soul because they're changing moment by moment, because they exist by merely being designated in dependence upon term and concept. So they're not something permanent, they're not truly existent, yeah, but they exist during samsara, again in a polluted manner. They're covered by ignorance, but as they get purified, from the tantric viewpoint, then they become the body and mind of a Buddha. Yeah, so these extremely subtle mind becomes the omniscient mind of the Buddha. The extremely subtle wind energy becomes the form bodies of the Buddha. Okay, so the form bodies of the Buddha are bodies in which the Buddha can manifest to communicate with all the unenlightened beings. Because as unenlightened beings, we don't have the capability of tapping into the Buddha's mind directly. We have too many obscurations. So the Buddhas manifest in different form bodies to communicate with us. Okay, so also from the tantric viewpoint, yeah, there's no cessation of the self at the time of enlightenment, because there still remains the basis of designation, here being the extremely subtle wind and mind, or the Buddha's form body and omniscient mind. Okay?
When you say the Buddha, you mean like all of the...
I'm saying a Buddha. I should say a Buddha. Yeah. I usually say the Buddha, but there's many, many Buddhas, so I should say a Buddha. But often when I say the Buddha, try and hear a Buddha. Okay? Okay. So liberation is freedom from the bondage of rebirth due to afflictions and karma, polluted karma. Okay? And enlightenment is not only freedom from the bondage of bondage of rebirth due to afflictions and karma, but it's also freedom from the cognitive obscurations, these subtle defilements that obscure the mind. Okay? So now we're going to get into the Four Noble Truths a little bit more directly. So first of all, why are they called noble? Because you say, the noble truth of suffering, or the noble truth of dukkha. What is noble about dukkha? What is noble about unsatisfactory conditions? Here is where we get into translation problems, okay? Because the word that is being, the Sanskrit word that's being translated as noble here is Arya. Okay? And Arya refers to somebody who has realized the nature of reality directly without any conceptualization interfering with it. Okay? So an Arya being is, a really valuable refuge object for us. So some people, when they translated the term Arya into English, called them noble ones. Okay? They're noble in the sense that they're elevated from us ordinary beings. And then they translated it the Four Noble Truths. But there, noble is modifying truth, and our mind thinks, not modifying truth, it's modifying suffering, or dukkha. And we say, well, how is that, how is the truth of our unsatisfactory conditions noble? Okay, so this is the problem of translation. Yeah, so actually the Four Noble Truths is not a very accurate English translation. It should be something like the Four Truths of Aryas, or the Four Truths Seen by Noble Beings. Yeah, sometimes in one book I'm working on, we just called it the Four Truths. Yeah, get rid of the noble in there because it's confusing. Yeah, but why is it called noble? Okay, because noble indicates that those four things are directly realized by the Aryas. Okay, and so the Aryas have realized the ultimate nature of reality. They see things accurately. So, they are four truths seen by these noble beings who have understood the nature of reality. And also the word noble here can mean that by our seeing and understanding these four truths, it ennobles us. Okay? We improve, we become a better person by understanding these four truths. Okay? So that's where the meaning of noble comes into here. Yeah, so it's kind of important. Yeah.
Same translation should apply to the Noble Eightfold.
Here the Noble Eightfold Path, again, it's indicating paths that have been realized by these noble ones. Okay? Yeah. So we might say we're practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, but we're not noble ones. Yeah. So at least I'm not. Okay. So then it's the actual Noble Eightfold Path, or Eightfold Noble Path, refers to these paths in the continuum of an Arya being. Yeah. But of course, to become an Arya being, we have to practice them now the best way we can. Okay? But they're not exactly noble in our mind stream yet. Okay? Okay, so the Buddha spoke about the four truths in many sutras, and he spoke about them repeatedly, and they really form the core of understanding the Buddhist worldview. Okay, because like I was saying yesterday, the first two truths of dukkha and its origin describe our present situation, and the last two truths of true cessations and true paths describe our potential. Okay. By the way, it's just a point of interest for you. If you look at the monastic robes, we have usually two folds in the back. Sometimes we're allowed to put just one, but many people put two. And in the front, on the left side, we have two folds, okay? The two folds in the back are the first two truths that we want to put behind us, and the two folds in the front left are the truth of cessation, truth of path that we want to put before us and go towards. So there's some symbolic meaning here. Just a little bit of trivia that helps you maybe understand why the robes look the way they do. Okay, so what is true dukkha? Yeah, what is it? So true dukkha refers to our polluted aggregates. So the aggregates that we took under the influence of ignorance, afflictions, and karma. So this isn't abstract. This thing is true dukkha. This thing, this body. Our present mind under the influence of attachment and so forth is true dukkha. This is not abstract. This is like, true dukkha, where is it? Right here. Okay? True origins refers to our mental afflictions, ignorance, attachment, anger, pride, jealousy, laziness, lack of integrity, lack of consideration for others, on, all the afflictions, and the karma that causes rebirth. So the karma created under the influence of ignorance. That's what true origins are. The third noble truth, true cessations, are the exhaustion of true dukkha and true origins. Okay, so there's actually many true cessations, because as we progress along the path, we gain certain understandings of the path, certain depth of understanding of emptiness, and the strength of our realization of emptiness increases, and as that increases, we're able to eliminate from the root, so that it can never occur, different levels of defilements. Okay, so each level, or the elimination of each level of defilements, is a true cessation. Okay, is this making some sense to you? It's like if we're washing the cloth, and you have to wash it many times. So each time you wash it, the soap in each washing, is like the true path, and then the lack of dirt that follows that washing is that true cessation. So there's many true paths and there's many true cessations because we wash the cloth many times. Okay? Yeah? You with me? Okay, so sometimes we talk about the four truths in plural, in the singular, true dukkha, true origin, true cessation, true path, as if there's only one of these things, but actually they're all plural. Yeah, but it's hard. True dukkhas, how do you make a Sanskrit word plural in English? Yeah, it becomes difficult. Yeah, or true origins, true cessations, true paths. Yeah, if you put cessations, if you type that, the spell checker doesn't like it. Yeah. It doesn't like it doesn't like dukkha, and it doesn't like dukkhas either. It'll accept paths, and it'll accept origins. I don't know. Yeah, origins it usually takes. Yeah. Okay, so, we have a little bit of difficulty with English here. We have to just get used to it. Okay, so the true... where was I? Don't you love that? It just goes scrolling. Whee! Come back. Not only is my mind uncontrolled, but the tablet is also uncontrolled. Except I supposedly did that. Okay. Okay. True paths is the practice or the consciousnesses that have the power to eliminate the true origins, and the elimination of the true origins is, therefore the true dukkha stops, and you arrive at the true cessations. Okay, so the true paths are, the three higher trainings in ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom. And in specific, according to our school, the wisdom realizing the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. Okay, so to talk about them a little bit more explicitly, true sufferings are our polluted aggregates, caused under the influence of afflictions and karma. And there's 4 types, okay? Polluted bodies, polluted minds, polluted environments, so the environment what we're born into, which is especially polluted this weekend, and polluted enjoyments. Here the word enjoyments is, it actually means objects of use, things that you use. Maybe resources? Yeah, polluted resources. Okay, so the first 2, polluted bodies and polluted minds, are internal, true dukkha, because they're in the continuum of the person. The last 2, polluted environments and polluted resources, are external truths of dukkha. Okay? True origins are the afflictions or the polluted karma that brings rebirth. These are rooted in ignorance. And often, although ignorance is the primary culprit in this case, often when we talk about origins, craving comes in, and craving is used as the example, okay, as the origin of dukkha. Why craving? Because craving makes the world go round, okay? Craving makes samsara go round. While we're alive, we crave different things. To get what we want, then we engage in actions that harm others, or even sometimes actions that are still polluted by ignorance, but we crave things, we crave merit, so we create some virtuous karma, but it's still polluted by ignorance and craving. Okay, so during our life there's a lot of craving that creates the causes for rebirth. And then at the time of death, craving is a mental fact that arises very strongly that says, I want a body and mind in samsara. I don't want to separate from this one, and if I have to, I want another one. Okay? So in that way, craving acts as the fertilizer that makes the polluted karmic seeds ripen at the time of death, and that when those seeds ripen, then that is what attracts us to rebirth in one body or another body, in one realm of existence or another realm of existence. Okay? Mm-hmm.
You talk about that attachment to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us never experience that. When you talk about it, I can grasp that how much I'm attached to that body.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate with anything that
Oh, okay. So, so you're saying that, we talk a lot about attachment to the body, but that's something that you find difficult to relate to your experience. Okay? So,
I know some people have.
yeah, is that feeling of
How to go there?
how to, okay, so how to understand it? Do you like being in pain?
I guess
Yeah? Anybody like being in pain? No. Okay. What lies behind our dislike of being in pain? We crave for a body that is happy, that is peaceful, that experiences pleasure and not pain. We're very attached to the state of our body. We do not like a painful body. Yeah, we like a pleasurable body. Okay? So that very thing, which is our day-to-day experience, isn't it? That indicates the attachment to the body. Okay. Well, in one way, we accept the craving for the body and try not to get too angry about when the body is unhappy, because when we get angry and upset and frustrated when our body is painful, that just causes us more suffering. Okay. However, we do not want to accept the existence of craving in our mind stream, and in a way that says, well, yeah, craving is there, I accept it, I'm not going to try and get rid of it. Because that is tantamount to saying, I want to stay in samsara forever. Okay, so we still want to subdue our craving. Yeah, definitely, and we want to eradicate our craving. At the same time, as we don't want to let ourselves be too bummed out by the craving that exists in a way that causes more suffering to ourselves and others. Okay? Okay. True cessations. Okay, now here's something that's a little bit difficult. True cessations are the purified aspect of the ultimate nature of a mind that has abandoned any obscuration through, or all obscurations, through the force of a true path. Actually, no, I stick with any obscuration, because I was saying there's different true cessations. Okay? So what this means is, yeah, we ordinary beings, we have a conventional nature of the mind, we have an ultimate nature of the mind. While the ultimate nature of our mind is not inherently polluted, and neither is the conventional nature of our mind, at the present time they are polluted. Not inherently, because those things are adventitious, but they are polluted. So when we have a true cessation, yeah, the conventional nature of the mind gets purified of a certain level of defilement. And due to that, the ultimate nature of the mind, which is one nature with the conventional nature, also gets purified of that level of defilements. And the true cessation is the purified aspect of this ultimate nature of a mind that has abandoned any obstruction through the force of a true path. Why it says abandoning an obstruction through the force of a true path is because a true path is a wisdom consciousness that has the power to eliminate the obstructions or the obscurations from the root so that it can never appear again. Yeah. So here we're not talking about a temporary elimination of an obscuration. For example, I may not be angry right now. Yeah. So in one way, you can say my anger's, has been eliminated because it's not active right now. But have I really eliminated anger? No, because all you do is look at me cross-eyed and I'll be angry again. Okay? So it has to be the elimination of anger that's by the force of a true path, because only that true path can cut the continuity of that anger so that it will never appear. Yeah. Lesser antidotes don't cut the continuity of the anger. They only make it so that it's not manifest in your mind at that particular moment. Okay? And then the true paths are Arya's realizations that are held by the wisdom directly realizing emptiness. Okay? So there's the true paths of the Arya beings on the hearer vehicle, and on the solitary realizer vehicle. Those Aryas are aiming for arhatship. And there's also the true paths on the beings, on the continuum of the beings who are Arya Bodhisattvas, who are aiming for full awakening. Yeah. Some of you may have studied when we talk about the 5 paths, the paths of seeing, meditation, and no more learning. So these are Arya paths. These are true paths. The path of preparation, path of accumulation are not, because they have not yet realized emptiness directly. Okay? Yeah.
Would you mind repeating your definition of the first sentence of true path? Arya's realizations that are held by?
The wisdom realizing emptiness. The wisdom realizing emptiness. Okay? Okay, so I think we'll stop here for right now. Yeah, you have enough to think about? Yeah. The point of this is think about it in terms of your own experience. Try and identify what is true dukkha in your experience. Try and identify the origin, the causes of dukkha, the afflictions, the karma, the polluted karma that you've created. Try and identify those. Yeah. And then think of the possibility of ceasing them and having that pure nature of mind, and of generating the wisdom that understands the nature of reality correctly, because that has the power to stop the true origins, which stops the true dukkha and brings the true cessations. Okay? So think about it that way, in terms of, it takes some time to understand these things, but, think about them. And this is, the topic of your meditation is going through this and trying to understand. Okay?